Hi there, this is Lori Edge-Hughes of FourLeg.com, and I am wanting to do my blog by video today. Why not? Really, because I just didn't feel like typing. I thought maybe this would be easier, but maybe not. We'll see. So, whoop, get you all wiggling and moving there. So today's blog post, I want to talk about glute strengthening. I had found a human blog that was talking about glute strengthening and the importance for glute strengthening, and they had provided 5 exercises. And what was interesting is the article went on to talk about how it's so important to strengthen glutes in multiple different directions. So they said, coming up with exercises like in side lying, right? So the clamshell exercise, in supine, so lying on your back where you can lift your whole pelvis off the floor, and that would activate the glutes differently. And then you'd have prone, so on your stomach, and then with your knee bent you can do like a donkey kick up to the ceiling. And then standing exercises, which would be like your hip extension and hip abduction, and maybe with a TheraBand or something tied around your ankles so as to add some resistance. So they were saying like these were important to get multiple different ways and different directions to actually strengthen your glutes. So I thought, that's interesting. I wonder how many ways we actually think about strengthening glutes in dogs. And then the one that I sat there pondering for a long time is, is there any way you can exercise a dog's glutes in supine? And I decided no. But then I came up with a bunch of ones. So I wrote them down and then I divided them into easy, intermediate, and advanced. So I figured your first easy exercises that would work for glutes would simply be like a 3-leg standing, right? So just that isometric hold positionally. And just standing and balancing, and then maybe even like wiggling the leg to make it more difficult. You can change that up then by going diagonal leg stands, and again making that harder by wiggling them. And that in my head was kind of like your easiest. You could then ask the dog to walk backwards, and then you're still getting that concentric contraction of the glutes. You can ask for sidestepping, or doing the round and round the ottoman, right, where the front feet are on an elevated surface like a little stool or something, and then the dog walks the dog walks around that platform. You kind of push it or lure it, and then that sidestepping would be a glutes activation as well. What else did I have for easy? I guess it's kind of easy / intermediate, would be like a sit to stand. So you can definitely have it easy in the beginning, and they could like be sitting down onto a stool or a platform, and then make it harder where they have to go right to the ground, or even then on an incline. I always say, like glutes and quad strength, that's something that in particular seniors lose. I don't know if this is going to show up well, but if you go, hang out at a nursing home just to watch the fun. But if you watch, some of your old people, and if they go to sit, right, they can't do it nice and controlled going down. Usually they will back up to a chair and they might go down, and then it's kind of a plunk. And that's basically a weakness of, it would be both quads and glutes, that they're not able to control the lowering. So that's another, example of why glutes are important, and especially then in that population. And so our seniors as well, getting them to do that nice controlled sit to stand. So like I said, starting off going to a platform, or even onto your leg, right? Your thigh if you're on the ground. That might be a good starting point. Then I figured that intermediate exercises, I had like a weave poles, because then they have to push on one side and then the other, so they are activating the glutes as they push themselves to go through the weave poles. I thought tug of war could definitely be intermediate. If the dog is really crazed about it, then it could be advanced. But just that tug of war, oh, there we go, the tug of war and backing up, or you pulling them forwards, either way. That's a good, nice, strong contraction for glutes. And it could be concentric if you're letting them go backwards, or eccentric if you're pulling them forwards, or isometric if you're just holding still. So you've got lots of variety in through there. Then a couple of them I thought could be like maybe starting intermediate but could become advanced. So like a destination jumping, or even jumping over something. Obviously the height of where they have to jump could make it harder or easier, okay? Or the height that they're jumping over, okay? And step ups. So that's the one that I like, where the front feet are on a block and the back feet are on another one back leg is on another block. And then, so the two front feet are up here, one leg is on the other block and the other one is on the ground. So they're not actually weight bearing yet on the one that's on the block. And then you take that leg on the ground off and they straighten up the leg that's on the block. And that ends up being a really good quad and glute strengthener. I've got a video on the inside of FourLeg.com on that. Fun with cinder blocks, I believe it's called. Anyways, those I thought were kind of intermediate / advanced. And then more advanced, the ones I had there is doing running or bursts, right? Where they strong, powerful contraction. And if you visualize a greyhound running in your head and how the rear feet go past the front feet to get that powerful oomph to blow them forwards, that's a really strong gluteal contraction. And that can be excellent, but in a more advanced status of an animal, or more advanced rehab if you're rehabbing an animal. And then that kind of, so running and either maybe even chasing another dog or just running themselves, or burst, like if you're throwing a toy for them, if it's safe to do so. And or zoomies, right? Where like you're chasing your dog around the yard and they're doing the zoomies all to get away from you. That can be really good, strong gluteal contractions. Obviously, if the dog is fit enough to do so. So that was kind of the main list I came up with. And then within that, you kind of think about the other components of selecting exercises. So is it isometric? So that's where I said like your 3-leg stand is isometric. Is it concentric, where the muscle is contracting and getting slower, so you're walking backwards? I forgot. Did I forget? I forgot. Another easy one that can be easy or intermediate or even advanced depending on how hard it was. There's walking up hills or stairs, up and down, because down the dog kind of rests itself onto its haunches, its back end a little bit to slowly lower themselves down. And the reason I remembered it here is because as they're going uphill, that would be concentric. As they're going downhill, that's a little bit more eccentric for the glutes. Okay. You can make it more challenging by making it resisted. In the dog, that's tough because I don't know. You might put a weight pack on them, and then they're just doing the activity with heavier weight. Eccentric we talked about, good. And then looking at things like slow twitch, right? So slow twitch and fast twitch, right? So your burst activity, your fast, that's your fast twitch muscles, and then your slow twitch are the ones that are just kind of holding steady state, and that would be a little bit more like your isometrics and those sorts of things. And it's likely good to incorporate some of both into what you're doing. Okay, and then why the glutes? Why should you strengthen glutes? Because one, glutes affect all rear leg functioning. Strength in the glutes can impact and support both the hip and the stifle, and it can allow proper normal movement at the tarsus as well. So those are all important. It can help stabilize absolutely the pelvis, but then the bit of the core as well. And it may be a bit protective against back injuries. This is kind of seen in people. If your glutes aren't firing, then you might end up with more of a back strain. Um, and then it's absolutely in correlation with sacroiliac joint dysfunction. Glutes and sacroiliac joint dysfunctions are huge, which then I would also say, because I think sacroiliac joint has a potential role to play in urinary incontinence. So if the incontinent dog has a sacroiliac dysfunction, also check for glute strength to try and help hold everything together, and it all likely goes part and parcel there. And the other thing that was mentioned in that article that it was important for strengthening is the time under tension is important. So we could translate that to how much or how long you're doing the exercise for. And they also said tempo work, which they said like a slow lowering, so control. So looking at whatever exercises, so obviously not bursts and zoomies, but any of the other exercises done slowly and in control might also help as well. So there is your little tidbit of information for the day. That's your blog for the week, and I hope you find it useful. And go out and start building glutes. Alrighty, till next time. Cheers.